Abu Shaqqa studied with Al-Albani and with a number of other scholars. He was a Salafi. And in studying hadith, he's an Egyptian, and in studying Bukhari and Muslim, he noticed that many of the things he was being told were not like the hadith that he was reading. So he wrote a book, which I know some of you, especially Arabs, would know, called Tahrir al-Mar'a fi Asr al-Nubu'ah, The Liberation of Women in the Age of Prophecy. This is a book that's 4 volumes, based on several hundred hadith from Bukhari and Muslim. He didn't use other books of hadith because he wanted to use what was completely authentic. That if I give a hadith from Bukhari, you won't doubt it, or Muslim. Whereas if I cite a hadith from Tirmidhi or Ibn Majah or Abu Dawood, you'll say, well, maybe it's not sahih, which it might not be. And he was a great man, Abu Shaqqa. And read his book. I ask you, read his book. Because what he shows is that gender relations in the day of the Prophet were very open. Don't prohibit the maidservants of God from the mosques of God. That's what the Prophet said. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Sahih hadith. And the women took part in life. They took part in battle. Ash-Shifa, who was one of the most noble women of Quraysh, who belonged to the clan of Abd Shams. The Prophet put her in charge of the marketplace. He put her in charge of the marketplace, which also means that there are women in the marketplace. They were selling. And whom do we follow? Do we follow the Prophet? Of course we follow the Prophet. So when there are hundreds of hadith like this, can't we follow these hadith? Can't we look at this? Especially when we live in a society like the society that we're in. I mean, a lot of the positions that we take are just culture from the other world. A lot of the positions that we take, they may even be positions in your school. But let's look at the hadith. Let's look at the precedents. Let's look at the situation that we're in. And it's not just an issue of letting women in the mosques. It's not just an issue of educating women completely. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest. I know about my community. Some of the things that happen to women are unspeakable. They're unspeakable. And no man would stand for that. No man who's a true man would stand for that. Right? I mean, manhood is to stand up for the rights of the weak. Right? To stand up for the rights of women. To stand up for the rights of children. And I know in my own community that there are terrible things that happen to women. And nobody says anything. No one does anything. The men deny it. Maybe that doesn't happen in your community. I'm not condemning you. I'm not talking about you. But gender is very important. And justice is very important. We have to do right by each other. We have to get the house together. We need to be serious about these things. We need to be open-minded. Again, we talked about these huge issues. I would love in the United States, in any discourse, to be able to talk honestly about Israel. Not to damn it, not to condemn it, but let's just look at what happened. Let's just look at the history, right? Why don't we teach this in school? Just the facts, nothing else, just the facts. And quite frankly, I can't do that. Quite frankly, it's very difficult to do that. Why? Hegemonic discourse. Hegemonic discourse. You may not ask why. You may not ask that question. You're an anti-Semite if you do that. No, I'm not an anti-Semite. Not at all. Not in the least. I never would be. And I have nothing against the Jews. But just let's talk about it. You can't do that. But at the same time, we want to talk about these things, right? We want to talk about these issues. But at the same time, in our own community, no hegemonic discourse. No wrath and anger. Just talk about it. What does Islam say about it? What is the reality? What are the opinions? What is there? What can we do about the situation? How can we expect others to allow us to have free discourse on the issues that concern us if we're not going to allow free discourse in our own community? It doesn't sound right to me. Does it sound right to you? Are we finished? Yes, go ahead.
Isn't Islam an ideology, and doesn't Islam follow us to, of course, to spread the truth and to prevail it over other way of life?
The question is, doesn't Islam require us to spread the truth and to make it prevail over other ways of life?
Isn't it an ideology?
Sorry?
Isn't it an ideology?
Isn't it ideology? Well, the Quran says 3 times, هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره الكافرون ولو كره المشركون. He, God, is the one who sent his messenger with the guidance and with the religion of truth, so that he, God, make it uppermost, make it prevail over all other religion, even if those who reject the truth, the idolaters, don't like it. This is the work of God. This is the work of God. And we do that, how? In this situation, by being examples. You know, by getting on the front page of the newspaper because of the wonderful things we do. Not because of the atrocious things that so-and-so did or so-and-so did, right? And Islam spread through the earth by examples, by excellent examples. It didn't spread by the sword, you all know that. Tell me a single instance where Islam spread by the sword. Never. I can tell you other religions that spread by the sword, but not Islam. For Islam to come into Egypt, it took almost 300 years. You know, for it to become the majority of the people of Egypt. Syria, almost 350 years. There were, of course, Muslim communities. They were strong, they were beautiful. But Islam spreads, you know, by its own light. Yes, you know, we have a message to take. And I believe that it is the message of the time. Again, you know, modernity, this age in which we live, this economic system that we are part of, it needs guidance. It needs values so that we can have peace, so that we have human rights, so that we can have justice, so that we can protect the environment, so that we can protect the children and the women, the orphans, the children that are starving in Africa, and the AIDS, the victims of AIDS, and so forth. I mean, you know, the culture in the modern world has many, many wonderful aspects to it. But there's so much that is left out. I mean, my own country wants to militarize space. Did you know about that? That's nothing to laugh about. I'm certainly not proud of that. Militarization of space is one of the greatest threats to humanity there is. And yet there are people that want to do that. Is that culture? Is that value? Is that guidance? So we are here to be lights of guidance. We are here to help humanity in any time. And that is what Muslims have done time and again in West Africa and elsewhere. In Indonesia, in Malaysia, in China, Muslims have played very dynamic roles. But you do it by being what you're supposed to be and by doing the things that you have to do, not by shouting at people, and even not even by passing out pamphlets. In the United States, we have a lot of converts, more than you have here. Almost 1/3 of our community to 40% of our community is converts.